People are always asking me if I know Tyler Durden.
Welcome back, and if you're new here, my name is Robert Macfarlane and I take your favourite film and TV and I tell you just how the directors do it. Coffee time! Today, we're going to break the first rule of Fight Club. Today, I have a fantastic episode for you guys, where we're going to be taking a look at the epic ending of Fight Club and why shooting himself was the only way out. Everyone, you've been warned, spoilers ahead, go watch the movie, it will definitely help. We have to go all the way back to the beginning of the movie and analyse each of the key character moments as the narrator is challenged and parts of his belief system are broken down.
I had become a slave to the Ikea nesting instinct.
Yes, I'd like to order the Erica Picari dust ruffles.
First things first, we're inside the narrator's home and we get to see a blank canvas. He starts to talk about the fact that he has become an Ikea nester.
The Klipsk personal office unit. The Hovertrek home exerbike.
As we see in the space, all of the items are digitally placed in. The shallowness of the effect highlights the shallowness of all of this furniture in the place. But it doesn't just stop there. If you listen to the music in the background,
the Klipsk personal office unit. The Hovertrek home exerbike.
It almost sounds like elevator music. Again, reflecting the trivial nature of this accumulation of objects. Don't forget to hydrate. Coffee, obviously. And also don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss any more of my analyses in the next few weeks. Thank you.
Simple, hard-working indigenous peoples of...
Please hold.
And then we reach the fridge, and I think that this is actually a really important piece of information. We've seen that he's willing to accumulate and order and buy all of this random furniture from Ikea, yet he doesn't even buy food for himself and is quite happy just to eat a condiment instead of a complete meal. But as he closes the fridge, you'll notice something in the background. How spotless and untouched the kitchen looks. It's like he's never cooked in there before. The cupboards are highlighting, showing off these wonderful sets of cutlery, plates and cups in the backdrop. But it feels like they've never been used. They are there for show. They are there to say to the world, I'm adulting because I have a full set of cutlery in different colours. Even the narrator's dialogue.
We used to read pornography. Now it was the Horchow collection.
He's choosing to fill a void with consumerism rather than his own sexual desires. So we've set up the character. We know that he has insomnia, and we know that he is looking for something to fill this void that he feels because he's just not happy. So when he ends up trying to fill this void by going to a testicular cancer support group,
my name is Bob.
We recognize that he's now trying to put a plaster over that emotional gap in his life. For a lot of films, this moment would come much later in the movie. The character has found something that seems to work for his problem.
And then something happened. I let go.
So he's actually gotten closer to his desire before we've even reached the moment of an inciting incident.
I found freedom. Losing all hope was freedom.
We see an imprint, a wet print as it were, on this man's shirt, who, he doesn't really mind because he was asking for him to cry. But it's oddly in the shape of a skull. There are many, many themes of death and ideas of death and life throughout this film, and I think this is a subtle nod to that.
I found freedom.
David Fincher is not one to be too obvious most of the time, but he is very satirical. So the use of acquire is less about the character having found the solution and more about the character thinking he's found the solution. It's almost as if this sense of relief has created the background music that we hear, rather than actually the character having evolved, having grown in some way. And then we have an American flag in the background that happens to be spotlit. Please note that David Fincher is known for for his meticulous frame design. Nothing in that frame, in the way the camera moves, is ever a mistake. I think what he's trying to say with this is that this film isn't necessarily going to speak to every male in the world, but it certainly is going to speak to the male who was influenced by American culture. And I think that's a really important note to take away from this, that he is honestly trying to make sure that we don't feel that he's generalizing about the male experience. He is stating that maybe American culture is doing something to men and that this could be the problem. Not the solution. I don't think he's necessarily talking about a solution, but he is highlighting a problem. So later on, he's at another support group now, and we see this moment.
Where does it lead? To your cave. Step forward into your cave.
But his cave happens to be an ice cave. I think this really, again, reflects the coldness within him.
Find your power animal.
A lot of people would probably say my spirit animal is a lion, a puma, a bull. But he imagines a penguin. And no offense to penguins, I think they're lovely, but they're kind of boring.
Slide.
The penguin has the voice of a child. This says to me that maybe internally he is an emotionally stunted man. Later in the film, he even says that he is a man-child. And we're at the point where we should be meeting the inciting incident pretty soon. But we get a really interesting shot, and this really is the culmination of his current problem.
And every evening I was born again, resurrected.
He's very confident. He's smirking almost, quite happy with himself. We hear funky jazz in the background. This sets us up for the first twist to this character's journey, as he needs to now start to have everything broken down. Well, the first thing is his dependence upon the support groups. And the only way to do that was to bring in Marla Singer.
And she ruined everything.
This is cancer, right?
And what she really represents, in my opinion, is the selfish use of the support groups for his own gratification. And because someone else is doing it, he doesn't feel like he's able to get what he needs from the support groups because someone else is there doing the same thing as him.
Do not watch. I cannot go when you watch.
Able to see him for what he really is. And he's no longer able to hide under the guise of silence.
I can't cry if there's another faker present, and I need this.
Coffee time! So with the integration of Marla Singer into all his support groups, he starts to get insomnia again, pushing him towards the inciting incident where he'll need Tyler Durden in his life.
But I've got some good news. I no longer have any fear of death.
This moment is so painful to watch, but also so revealing about the narrator. You'll notice the character has basically stated that they have fully accepted that they are going to die. Again, with the death references, but then the support group starts to clap. You'll notice the narrator down in this little area here only claps because everybody else around him is clapping. This is David Fincher and the writer's own perspective on men of the 21st century. Many of them have been indoctrinated, have been taught to be sheep, and that they will follow what everyone else does. And this ultimately, I think, is the key to what sets up what will happen to our character.
And this is how I met
Tyler Durden.
Did you know if you mixed equal parts of gasoline and frozen orange juice concentrate, you can make napalm?
And one of the most obvious and superficial things that needs to be eradicated from his life is his personal items and his need for objects. So, the quickest, most effective route to the destination is a straight line, and in this case, it's a bomb. So there is our first character turn. All of his objects have been completely destroyed. He has nothing to hold on to, and more importantly, as Tyler Durden says,
Things you own end up owning you.
So we jump now to about halfway through the film.
Is that your blood?
Some of it, yeah.
This is really highlighting how much the character has changed since the beginning of the movie. If you remember the very first scene, he deals with his boss.
You want me to deprioritize my current reports until you advise of a status upgrade?
Make these your primary action items. Here's your flight coupons.
Well, in this scene, he deals with his boss again.
You can't smoke in here. Take the rest of the day off, come back Monday with some clean clothes.
He's no longer smart looking, and he deals with his boss in a very different way. So when his boss then sends him home, you'll notice he also takes up a lot of space, very assertive as he walks.
Yes, these are bruises from fighting. Yes, I'm comfortable with that. I am enlightened.
He's so much more confident at this point in the film. We now understand the character has taken another step forward. He's released his fear of judgment. And now we get to a scene that I think is really important.
Say this about Marlon. She's trying to hit bottom.
What, and I'm not?
The narrator doesn't really like this. You can tell. He's kind of confronted by it because he thinks he's made so much progress. But Tyler Durden knows better. He still hasn't really confronted everything that is in control of his life. Now, if we go back to the beginning of the film, and I spoke about that penguin.
Slide.
You also remember from the film, there was another time he was in the ice cave, and Marla Singer is there.
Slide.
I think that both of those words are talking about this process of trying to hit bottom. The pure act of sliding means going down, falling with gravity. I think it's a subtle reference to him always having known the process from which he would have to go down to become a better person.
Sticking feathers up your butt does not make you a chicken.
He's given up his fear of judgment from other people, but this is the midpoint. He's got to be reminded that he still has a long way to go, and now he's going to really face the biggest challenges of the film.
Security?
I am Jack's smirking revenge.
This moment is played to perfection by Ed Norton. I think it is so nicely done. It's also very reminiscent of the initial fight. When we actually get a flashback and we see Ed Norton fighting himself in the parking lot later in the film, we realize he's done the exact same thing in his office, but this time completely consciously.
I am Jack's complete lack of surprise.
What?
You'll also notice that this room is very reminiscent of the narrator's old flat. Beige walls, Ikea-looking furniture, and really no specific identity. And I think this is again showing what the narrator might have become had he continued in his job for a few more years. Thank you so much for joining me this far in the episode. Don't forget to chuck a comment down below. Let me know what TV series and films you'd like to see analysed in the coming weeks.
This is a chemical burn.
When Tyler Durden challenges him to face the pain, not hide from it, but face his pain. I think this is actually an incredibly important message within the film to all human beings. We spend so much time trying to hide from our pain, just like Ed Norton's character, the narrator, does. Immediately, he tries to meditate.
Stay with the pain, don't shut this out. No, God! Look at your hand. The first soap was made from the ashes of heroes, like the first monkey shot into space.
This is the moment that he sheds his fear of pain.
Not fear. Know that someday you're gonna die.
And finally, we reach the end of the film. The narrator now knows that Tyler Durden is, spoiler alert, himself. I didn't spot it coming. And to be honest, David Fincher had done such an incredible job of constantly telling us that Tyler wasn't real, but did it in such a way that I just never guessed it. It's just so good, so good. The narrator now, having learned all of the things he had learned throughout the film, was able to take control from Tyler Durden, to fully accept his mortality. And the only way for him to prove that to himself was to, without fear,
My eyes are open.
there's no reticence in his eyes. Now, whether or not he actually intended on, not killing himself is another matter entirely. But this is the moment that he's able to overcome his need for Tyler Durden. And that's the final barrier. To become completely free, he had to be able to be as confident, to be as free as Tyler Durden was, without Tyler Durden taking control. Ultimately, if you actually dissect each of Tyler Durden's actions upon the narrator, it's almost as if he's trying to help the narrator become Tyler Durden. His whole goal is to allow the narrator to become the man he wants to be. But to do that, he has to destroy him first, and only then can the narrator be the man he wants to be. They're not necessarily defining what man should be, although many analyses do take a look at maybe what this film is trying to say about the modern man. But in this case, I believe that this character is going on a journey to try and become something, and to do so, Tyler Durden needed to be in his life, needed to destroy everything, his flat, his job, to let go and accept that he will die. It was the only way that he could possibly be happy.
You met me at a very strange time in my life.
Just wanted to share a little bit of good news with you guys. A short film I directed last year actually just won 4 awards at the Seattle Film Festival, where I won Best Director, Best Short Film, Best Science Fiction Short Film, and Best Actress for the fantastic Celine Abrams. She did an incredible job of bringing that character to life. Much of the success of that film I would attribute to learning cinematic language. So what I've done is I've actually shared my Cinematic Language 101 course up here and down in the description for you to help master your cinematic language.